Nikola Jokic is back on top, once again leading the MVP race and showing the league just how dominant he really is. If he wins, it would be his third MVP in 4 years, and honestly, it's starting to feel like the award has his name etched into it. He's playing on a different level, and most of the league is just trying to keep up. But when someone starts dominating like this, the backlash always follows. As Jokic keeps stacking up highlights and wins, critics are starting to talk. Some are calling it voter fatigue, while others hint at something more personal. Maybe even jealousy. After all, Jokic doesn't look like your typical superstar. He's not flashy, he's not fast, and he doesn't throw down thunderous dunks, but he makes the game look effortless, and that bothers some people. One of the loudest critics? Former NBA player and ESPN analyst Kendrick Perkins. So, what's Perkins saying? And is there any truth to it? Let's take a closer look. Perkins started off with a dramatic quote, referencing Jay-Z. Is it Uchi Wally or is it One Mic? I just want to know. What songs are we dancing to? His point? He believes the criteria for MVP keeps changing, and he's questioning why the standard seems to shift depending on the player. It's a fair question, in theory. But does it actually apply to Jokic? Let's dig deeper. Perkins didn't stop there. He made an even more controversial statement that sent shockwaves through the NBA world. He claimed that since 1990, only 3 MVPs weren't ranked in the top 10 in scoring: Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, and Nikola Jokic. Then he added, "What do those guys have in common?" and left it at that. The implication was heavy, and many saw it for what it was. He didn't spell it out, but the racial undertone was clear to a lot of viewers, and it sparked a firestorm of debate. But let's take emotion out of it for a second and look at the actual numbers. Steve Nash ranked 40th and 29th in scoring during his MVP seasons. Dirk? He was 11th. So, here's the thing. Perkins' claim doesn't quite hold up. Jokic was a top 10 scorer in one of his MVP years, and even when he wasn't, his impact on the game went far beyond scoring. He leads his team in points, rebounds, assists. He's a true all-around force, and the Nuggets' success runs through him. Critics can argue about what valuable really means, but when you strip it all down, Jokic's numbers, leadership, and consistency tell a clear story. So is this really about changing standards, or changing perceptions? More on that next. Kendrick Perkins' critique of Nikola Jokic didn't just raise eyebrows. It exposed inconsistencies in his own logic. In one breath, he argues that MVPs should be among the league's top scorers. But in 2021, Perkins himself campaigned for Chris Paul to win MVP, despite CP3 ranking 50th in scoring that season. That alone undercuts the foundation of his argument. If being a top scorer is a requirement, how does a player sitting that far down the list even enter the MVP conversation? And there's another issue. Selective framing. Perkins chose 1990 as the starting point for his MVP critique, conveniently omitting Magic Johnson, who won multiple MVP awards without ever leading the league, or even cracking the top ranks in scoring. It's hard not to wonder why Magic was excluded. Maybe because including him would weaken the point. That's what many critics believe. After facing heavy backlash for his comments, Perkins tried to walk a tightrope. He posted a video defending his stance, doubling down on the idea that there's a double standard in MVP voting. But not long after, the video quietly disappeared from his social media. That retreat didn't go unnoticed. Perkins originally tried to frame his argument with a clever reference. Is it Uchi Wally or is it One Mic? To highlight the perceived inconsistency in MVP standards. And while the metaphor is catchy, using it to target a player like Jokic without offering balanced context or accountability only made things more convoluted. This is where the debate really splits. Eye test versus analytics. Perkins proudly represents the eye test camp. He trusts what he sees on the court. Enter J.J. Reddick. Reddick, known for blending sharp analysis with experience as a former NBA sharpshooter, wasn't about to let the narrative slide. On first take, he calmly, but firmly, took Perkins to task. He admitted up front that Perkins might not be a fan of advanced metrics, but then laid out the case using both data and basketball logic. Reddick explained that we now have tools to track shot creation quality, which is about how often a player generates high-efficiency opportunities for their teammates. And guess what? Nikola Jokic ranks in the top 5. That means he isn't just padding stats. He's literally setting up his team for success every trip down the floor. He's not just randomly throwing passes, Reddick said. He's reading the defense. When the double comes, he finds the open man. When the help shifts, he zips it to the corner for a wide-open 3. It's not just smart, it's surgical. That's the kind of value you can't ignore. And it's why Jokic isn't just a stat sheet darling, he's a game changer. A center who plays like a point guard, thinks like a coach, and elevates everyone around him. MVP? Absolutely. Debate? Sure. But only if it's grounded in reality. Kendrick Perkins wasn't about to stay silent. As always, he fired back with his trademark intensity. But Reddick brought a new perspective, reminding everyone that understanding today's NBA takes more than just trusting your eyes. Recently, Perkins admitted he's puzzled by what the MVP award actually represents these days. Is it about team wins? Advanced analytics? The good old-fashioned eye test? Even he's not sure anymore. And he's not the only one scratching his head. Wright, never one to hold back, added more fuel to the fire. A vocal LeBron James supporter, Wright openly questioned how Nikola Jokic keeps winning MVP trophies, especially when his playoff runs haven't exactly backed up the regular season buzz. They must be giving out the MVP in some hidden hallway, Wright joked, pointing to Jokic's early postseason exits. Then he took it a step further. Respectfully, if you look at MVPs from the last 35 years, Jokic might be the least accomplished of them all. Wright even argued that Chris Paul, an all-time great in his eyes, deserved the award far more than Jokic, whom he reduced to simply a good player having a good season. Wright pushed back against critics, labeling him a Jokic hater. When I said this 2 years ago, people called me a hater, he said. But I had Jokic second, right behind Chris Paul, and Paul went on to sweep him in the playoffs. Here's the thing, though. Let's set the record straight. The MVP is a regular season award. It's about what a player does over 82 games, not how far they go in the playoffs. So when critics like Wright drag postseason failures into the MVP debate, the argument loses its footing. Sure, the Nuggets were swept by the Suns in that particular series, but Jokic still put up monster numbers. 25 points, 13.3 rebounds, and 5.8 assists per game. He led his team in all major categories. That's not falling short. That's doing everything he could. So, whether you're Team Jokic or not, one thing's clear. The MVP conversation is more complicated and more heated than ever. Let's get one thing straight. The MVP has nothing to do with playoff results. None. Zero. Zilch. So yes, Chris Paul may have led the Suns on a deep postseason run. And yes, he was brilliant. But that playoff dominance? It came after the MVP votes were already locked in. So suggesting CP3 deserved the award because of what he did in the playoffs? That's just not how this works. Still, that hasn't stopped Wright from stirring the pot. He's blurred the line between regular season brilliance and playoff performance so often, you'd think they were the same thing. Spoiler, they're not. Wright keeps doubling down. Last year, I said two guys in the West were carrying average squads. Jokic and Luka, he said. People called me what that really sounds like. Personal opinion wrapped in a stats-free package. It's not analysis. It's just storytelling. Let's make it crystal clear. The MVP is about the 82-game grind. Not a single second of postseason play counts toward that honor. And yet, some analysts keep shifting the standards, moving the goalposts to fit the story they want to tell. Take Nikola Jokic. If he hadn't already won 2 MVPs, he'd probably be leading the race again. But here we are, watching voter fatigue creep in, where dominance is taken for granted, and fresh faces are favored just for being new. That's not fairness. That's boredom. The MVP should go to the most valuable player of the season, plain and simple. Not the most popular, not the one with the best storyline, and definitely not someone who hasn't been too good for too long. Even ESPN's Max Kellerman recently admitted, "I've never seen someone dominate MVP voting like Jokic, yet still fall out of my top 5. Kendrick Perkins chimed in, saying Jokic now has to prove himself in the playoffs to earn more MVP respect. But let's be honest, that's a bogus standard. Jokic was putting up a triple-double while leading Denver to the top seed in the West. He wasn't just good, he was unstoppable. Saying he's not a top 5 player? That's not basketball logic, that's narrative control. And in the MVP conversation, that's a foul. Here's a key fact too often forgotten. The Nuggets lost to the eventual Western Conference champions. That fact alone doesn't erase Nikola Jokic's brilliance during the regular season. Remember, the MVP is a regular season award. It's right there in the name. So it's time we stop twisting the story and start recognizing just how consistently dominant players like Jokic truly are. Take the 2021-22 playoffs. Denver faced the Golden State Warriors, the best team in the West that year, and got swept. But let's look deeper. Jokic was carrying a thin supporting cast. Monty Morris, now averaging just 10 points per game with the struggling Wizards. Will Barton, once a key player, recently waived. Austin Rivers, barely scoring 5 points a game. J. Michael Green, bones. Highland, shooting under 40%. Bryn Forbes and DeMarcus Cousins, both out of the league. Aside from Aaron Gordon and Jeff Green, hardly anyone from that playoff roster is still making an impact for Denver today. Rewind to 2021, when the Nuggets were swept by the Phoenix Suns, another team that made it all the way to the finals. Jokic took a lot of heat for that loss, but his star teammate Jamal Murray was sidelined with a torn ACL. That's a massive absence. Even Draymond Green, known as one of the smartest players in the league, noticed some weaknesses in Denver's defense. After watching game film, he said, "At halftime, I already had 4 clips of Jokic's defensive mistakes, and those were all from just the first half." Moments like these show the incredible weight Jokic was carrying on his shoulders. When your supporting cast is so limited, even the greatest can fall short. The bigger picture and roster strength matter just as much as raw stats, especially come playoff time. During a game, I made it a point to attack Nikola Jokic's defense. Not out of spite, but because if the Nuggets truly wanted to take that next step, their star big man needed to anchor the defense better. I called out 4 specific moments where Jokic missed rotations or failed to cover the low man. They were obvious mistakes, and I didn't sugarcoat it. What happened next? Growth. The following season, Jokic started making those exact rotations I had pointed out. After a game, he came up to me and said something like, "I saw what you said about my defense. You were right. I've worked on it. And you know what? He had improved." I told him, "You've definitely gotten better. I've been watching, and it shows." That moment hit different. As someone new to TV analysis, hearing that my feedback helped a player improve, it meant a lot. Draymond Green even told me, "I'm on track to become one of the league's top analysts once my playing days are over." No doubt, that moment with Jokic confirmed I'm doing something right. This story shows how powerful constructive criticism can be. It also highlights something else about Jokic. He doesn't just respond to feedback, he thrives on it. But don't confuse his calm demeanor for softness. Players like Russell Westbrook, Markieff Morris, and Dwight Howard tried to rattle him with trash talk. None of them succeeded. Jokic isn't easily shaken. In fact, the more you try to get in his head, the more locked in he becomes. That cool, laid-back energy he carries, it's real, but beneath it is a competitor with a steel trap. Focus.